What's a video game you enjoyed that most people disliked?
Mercenaries 2 for PS3. I loved that game, played through it 3x. Terrible online reviews, and if you didn't update the game would freeze forever.
The original Mercenaries was one of the most fun games I've ever played. It's probably nostalgic, but I fucking loved Mercenaries.
Anyone remember True Crime, Streets of LA? It seemed like a very love or hate game, and I absolutely loved it. I liked how the story would branch out depending on what you did in certain missions. The martial arts were fun too. I remember the gun combat feeling kind of flat though.
You have the right to soak in your own urine. Yeah, the gunplay was a little arcadey, and all I really appreciated was blowing away a fleeing suspect in slow motion. Good fights though. Check out Sleeping Dogs if you like that.
ITK Sleeping Dogs was initially supposed to be a sequel to True Crime.
It was called True Crimes, Hong Kong or something like that before it got bought and renamed by Square Enix.
I love True Crime, New York City too.
The Godfather. You couldn't tell me I wasn't a mob boss.
What wasn't there to like? It was a GTA clone with the Corleone family.
My ex thought it was corny, but I was obsessed. That and LA Noire. I wish I had the time to play those again, faced with tears of joy.
It was corny. It also let you pull a lit stick of dynamite out of your coat pocket to menace shopkeepers, and made you an unhinged, strangling maniac. Good times.
Not sure if it's really hated, but Star Fox Adventures could be considered the black sheep of its series. Is it a good Star Fox game? No, since you're almost never in the R-ing. But damn, is it a good furry Zelda clone. Still one of my favorite games all these years later. There's just something super charming about it.
I can still hear that shopkeeper screaming you don't have enough scabs.
Turek, that late 2000s remake.
I'm no longer alone. You talking about the 2008 one where you're part of Whiskey Company? I'm not sure what people dislike about it, but since there hasn't been a next one, but clearly it didn't do well. The early 2000s one, Evolution, was busted, nearly impossible without cheats, a storyline that made no sense, and horrendous voiceovers. That one is still one of my favorites.
Evolution is the only 2-rock game I've ever played and I fucking loved it. That gun that drilled multiple little holes in people was gruesome lol, and the black hole device was pretty interesting. Glad to know it wasn't just me that couldn't follow the story though. I seem to remember it ending on some weird-ass cliffhanger with some dude putting on war paint or some shit, like he was gonna be the final boss, and then nope, that was just the end.
Dynasty Warriors. People give me shit all the time for liking DW like you just mash one button. I guess if you went it thinking it was gonna be Tekken I could see how you might be disappointed, but if you go in expecting Double Dragon it's great. It's cheesy and campy and the 1 versus 100 gameplay is super fun.
I still think about Lou Bouletin as one of the scariest boss fights from my childhood. Not necessarily toughest, but scariest, because when that man was on the screen, your life could be ending very soon. And sometimes you try to flee and look back over your shoulder just to see him relentlessly pursuing. I probably set a heart rate record for my young life up until that point.
Dynasty Warriors on PS2 was my jam. I replayed the campaign so many times just to try all the heroes.
It also got me interested into the romance of the Three Kingdoms story, which is amazing.
Shadow the Hedgehog, don't get me wrong, that game has issues, but overall I still had fun with it and would love to see a sequel that learns from the mistakes of the first game.
I want a re-release on Steam like most of the other Sonic games.
As a kid I wasn't allowed to play games with guns. Shadow was the one exception, so it was the coolest crap ever. Then I found out it had swears, another no-no. So to make sure it was never banned, I played the whole game on volume 0 straight up. I loved Shadow, haha.
Rugrats Search for Reptar was a genuinely fun, well-made game, and I'd play it again today if I could.
Spore. Granted, I wasn't aware of the game till after it released, so I didn't know about all the hype and high expectations other people had. It has its issues, but it's still quite fun and sunk many hours into it.
Spore is a great game, it's just weighed by the fact that if EA didn't cut production when it was 70% finished, it could have been a fantastic game.
Also, the DRM at the time caused a lot of outrage. You have to have an internet connection to install. Limited number of installs? But games today basically sell our info to the highest bidder.
I loved the first 2 stages and had varying levels of enjoyment of the rest, but was disappointed by a lot of things. I was disappointed that it feels like you just stop evolving so early on. I was disappointed about how short and shallow the tribe and city stages were, like you were being rushed onto space. I was disappointed with how it was like the game was actively trying to prevent you from having fun in space by interrupting you every 10 seconds with some hazard or attack busywork that needed to be taken care of. It was a game with a lot of potential, but it just didn't come together right.
The first Watch Dogs. Maybe it wasn't everything they promised, but it was still a pretty good game.
Best gunplay of the entire franchise. It feels too weird killing everyone as Marcus in the second game. And you weren't supposed to identify with Aiden, dude was messed up. T-Bone was a way more like able protagonist. Plus the missions against default were the best in the series.
I'm kinda lost here. Isn't the Watch Dogs protagonist's name Aiden?
T-Bone took over in the DLC.
Watch Dogs is one of my favorite games. I absolutely loved it and never understood why so many people hate it. I was late to play it though and never saw any adverts, so I actually have no idea what was promised.